Welcome everyone to our meeting of Diocesan Food Relief Projects. Those of you who've come before will know this is a space for us to come together and share our learning from the work we've been doing, share our knowledge, but also share our problems and the challenges we've been facing and try and find some solutions and ideas of what we can do to keep serving the communities we work with. I'm Anna, if you haven't met me before, but I think I have probably spoken to most of you before at some point. So it's great to see you here. And so today we're going to be looking at the theme of resilience. I think you've probably all heard us talk about our programme, The Road to Resilience, which is looking at how we can build our capacity across the diocese, not just to meet emergency need, but also to help people in the longer term to get out of the situation where they are in crisis and needing emergency food relief or other support. So that's the theme we're going to be looking at today. And we also use Catholic social teaching for a structure of see, judge, act in these meetings. So we're going to start off reflecting on some of the data you've shared with us about what you've been seeing across the diocese. And then Susan Grace from Newman Catholic College is going to share a bit about what they've been seeing in their school community and how they've been responding. Then Fr Dominic from Borehamwood parish will lead us in a bit of a reflection about the work they've done over the years through their food bank, how they've responded and the role of the church in that response in building resilience. And then we have some practical tools to share with you. So two, which Pat Fernandez and Sabine Goodwin are going to share, are about building financial resilience and capabilities in your communities. And then two, which some of my colleagues from Caritas are going to share, are about having all the things you need in place in your project to develop it further, especially as we come out of this pandemic. So to start us off, as I said, I'm going to share some of the data you've been sharing with us. So I just want to share some slides with you. Hopefully this will work and someone can give me a thumbs up if they can see it. Thank you, Silvana, for the thumbs up. Okay, so as a lot of you will be aware, we've really started trying to improve the data collection we're doing through the pandemic because we want to speak as a church with one voice in our diocese and share what we've been seeing and the needs of our communities. So back in July, we sent out our first quarterly survey asking you to tell us about what you'd seen in the previous quarter, so between April and June of 2021. So here are some of the results. So 35 of you kindly took part, which we really appreciate, from all across the diocese. And you can see here the projects worked on a range of things. They can work on more than one thing, which is why that the graph doesn't add up to 100, but 80% were involved in food poverty. So I know a lot of you would have been involved in taking this survey, which we really appreciate. And obviously that's a lot of the work that's been able to continue through the pandemic. But those projects are also involved in supporting specific communities, for example, the homeless or refugees and migrants. And there's also a lot of focus on the social isolation support that goes around, so the befriending and community work that's gone on around these projects. So a huge range of stuff going on across our diocese. You also shared some stories and quotes with us, which were quite heart-wrenching. So for example, this one here, one of our clients who is very isolated and not in touch with any family members was referred to us by a neighbour who was worried about her health. When we got in touch with her, we discovered she had not had a hot meal for 8 weeks. So quite shocking stories there, but also an incredible response from these communities. So you can see here, just from these 35 projects, which is actually a fraction of what goes on in the diocese, we got this data, and again, just for quarter two, just April to June, over 50,000 meals and food parcels were given out by these projects. So a huge amount of emergency relief work going on there. And just in an average week, more than 4,000 people would be supported. So even though it sounds like a small amount, 35 projects, you can see it's much bigger than that really. And that also, we got data on how many were able to be signposted to other support. So this kind of resilience work we're talking about, and that was more than 1,000. We haven't had data on that before. So we were really, really pleased to see that this is going on such a scale already. And then more than 800 volunteers were involved in these 35 projects and getting support out. So again, it's not just 35, it's hundreds and thousands of people involved there. Another quote here from a project. So we know that our project has had a positive impact on the lives of those we support. We have provided a lifeline to help them through difficult times, which they very much appreciate. This project has also shown the power of community. So we've really seen what is possible when people come together. Some of you also had given us some data in Q1 of this year, so January to March, as part of some responses to funding. So we've been able to put those together. You can see comparing Q1 and Q2 of the amount of people supported. Actually, the numbers were very, very similar. So it seems like for a lot of these projects, a consistent level of work was going on. Where there's quite a difference, it might be because a project started was quite new, or maybe only ran in term time, for example. But on the whole, it was pretty consistent. And we were also able to compare the amount of meals and food parcels provided. On this one, we saw a slight increase in Q2, though some projects actually saw less. So it wasn't a huge amount of increase. But this is what's going to be really helpful for us as we continue to track this. The longer we can compare it, the more we can see, is that a real increase? Is that a one-off? What's that in response to? So start really understanding the changes in demand that you're seeing. But as we've been talking about, it's not just about the amount of immediate need going out, it's about how we give people that longer term support. And this quote really sums that up. Families are struggling as a result of post-COVID. And as we come out of the pandemic, they will need a lot of support to rebuild their lives and finances, as well as take care of their physical and mental health. So we asked you all to tell us the top 3 issues you were seeing your beneficiaries facing. And this, we weren't surprised by these results. Low income was selected as one of the top 3 issues by 43% of projects. And this is what always comes up again and again. People affected by losing their work, having reduced hours of work in the pandemic, their business is struggling, or maybe just struggling to live on the benefits they receive. As well as that, unsurprisingly, 40% saw loneliness and isolation as one of the key issues. So what we would expect after all of these lockdowns, but now people may be struggling to reintegrate, or if they have lost work or have been separated from communities they were part of, continuing to feel really isolated. But you can see there's a range of issues there: unemployment, debt, housing, and then mental and physical ill health, which so all were all picked by at least one project. So we really see that there's a range of issues people are facing, and as projects on the ground working with these people, we need to think, what can we do to give them that extra support? Where can we signpost them for that advice? Really crucially, we asked, what areas would your project like to develop going forward? And this is so helpful for us to know what we can do to support you. So unsurprisingly, the most popular was funding. With these levels of demand, of course, funding is always going to be an issue. And I think a lot of people benefited from some of this emergency funding in 2020 that now maybe is drying up a little. So that's something we can definitely look at, and do get in touch with us if you want support with this. Then adding support for your beneficiaries, additional advice, which again is what we're talking about today. And recruiting and training volunteers, also much requested. We have a lot of resources. We have a whole website, the Caritas Volunteer Service, where you can get advice, and you can also advertise your volunteering opportunities. But again, all of these are areas we're working on and would be happy to help you with, and we'll follow up with you on, but do get in touch if you have specific questions you'd like support with. So this data has been really, really helpful for us in a range of ways. Firstly, it just makes sure we have a better understanding of what you're all doing and how we can help you. But like I said, it really helps us understand the scale and reach of projects in the diocese and the reach of the church. Then it helps us to understand how the need is changing over time, and if there's things we should be concerned and raising the alarm about, and why that might be happening. So, we're expecting a few changes now with the end of the furlough scheme, the cut to universal credit. We want to be able to see, do we see an uptick in need because of those? And if we do, we can use that data to, as part of advocacy, campaigning, raising awareness of these and calling for changes to support these people. And then, as I've said, informing our work so we can better support you. So going forward, we'll be following up on that and making sure we are supporting you as best as possible and shaping our future work to respond to this. But we will also be continuing this data collection. So we will be sending out our next survey for Q3 in October. We have listened, and it will be shorter, I promise. we got carried away, I think, and a few people said it took too long, which is fair enough. So we will make it as short as we can and as easy as we can to fill out. So please do take part. Even if you haven't already, that's fine. You can get involved now. And then we'll be using this to really support our advocacy and campaigning work. And so I just wanted to talk a bit about that briefly as well. So I'm sure you've heard of the Keep the Lifeline campaign. I think I've sent you all some information about this, but a lot of charities are campaigning about this now around the upcoming cut to universal credit. So some data here from the Food Foundation, 22% of households have lost income since before the pandemic, and food insecurity is now 27% higher than pre-pandemic levels. They also said that more people have suffered from food insecurity in 2021 than in the first 6 months of the pandemic. So people say we're coming out of this time, but I think, as you all know from your work, it's not that simple, and people are really seriously left struggling. As we talked about before, we can see how many of you reported that your projects were seeing people dealing with low income, unemployment, debt, benefit delays. So again, these income issues are really concerning. And that's what's already happening, but we now face some serious issues over the coming months that are going to really affect people. So at the beginning of October, there will be this £20 a week cut to universal credit, which will leave 6 million families worse off and push 500,000 people into poverty. 500,000 families, further into poverty. We're also seeing the end of the furlough scheme, and some of you have told me already that people are coming to you saying they've lost their jobs now that furlough is ending. And as well as that, we're all seeing inflation, increase in food and energy prices, and a risk of food shortages due to the shortage of hauliers. So the Joseph Rowntree Foundation have predicted that because of this, by April next year, a low-income family will be £1,750 worse off a year. And you can see the breakdown of that in the graph on the corner there. So mostly because of the cut to universal credit, but then because of the rise in living costs as well. So I really, really want to beg you, please do write to your MP if you haven't already. We have a template resource you can use, and I will share it again after this meeting. But what's really crucial is that you add your experience from your food project to this, because MPs get a lot of similar letters, but if they can see this is what's happening in my constituency, this is the need that's really there, that hopefully gives them a push to get involved. And even if they already believe in this campaign, it gives them backing that they can take to their party, to the ministers, to the Chancellor, to try and make this change. So please do get involved with that, and I'll share that again afterwards. So just stop sharing. So I hope that was giving you a bit of a useful overview, but I also realised it was a lot of graphs. So now I'm going to pass over to Susan Grace from Newman Catholic College in North West London, and she's going to tell us a bit more about what that really looks like and what the need they're really seeing in their community and how they're responding. So Susan, over to you.
Anna, could I present? Is that possible?
Of course, yeah. Will it not let you?
I don't know if it will let me. I haven't tried.
Have a go and we'll see if.
Okay.
There we go.
Right, I think you can see that. Can you see
Perfect.
My presentation?
Yeah.
Hang on, sorry, I'm just getting it where I want it. Right, okay. This is our Friday food bank, which is Faith in Action, and I'm just going to sort of share the story and where we're at now with you and how we've evolved over time. So to give you the context, I want to give you the local context. So we're located in, a school address is Willesden, but reality is we're in Harlesden in Brent, northwest London. There are high levels of deprivation. 33% of households live in poverty, and 31% of employees earn less than the London living wage. There's relatively high unemployment, 5.6%, homelessness and overcrowding, low incomes and high crime. 35.1% of the population is aged between 20 and 39, and 65% of the population is from ethnic backgrounds, minority ethnic backgrounds. Our school context, we have identified over 50 vulnerable families in the school community. We have over 20 refugee families. We have many of them have no recourse to public funds, or they're waiting on their immigration status. which, as you know, can take a long time. Unemployment, loss of jobs, and also concerns about universal credit are emerging now, especially given October, the £20 cut. And then also, as they have low income, they also have debt. And I've just put a few images just to kind of give you our food bank context, and that will become clearer. So what have we done to support them? So there's been ongoing relief from food poverty over the last 19 months. So from March 2020, when we first started the whole process, and from March 2020, we were just doing boxes of food. As you can see, we got a lot of donations from different places in and around London, and I know also from places outside of London, and we were giving out vouchers as well. So that was how we began. So then we decided to continue it over the summer holidays. And at that time, we only had staff volunteers running it. So every Friday during the summer holidays, we ran like a marketplace, and they came and helped themselves. Now, that in itself can be problematic. Sister Silvana will be well aware. We have a few clients who would take the whole stock if they could. So this wasn't really the best idea, but at the time, it enabled us to keep it going in the summer holidays. Then we moved, when school resumed, we had to move then to a shipping container, most attractive shipping container that we shared with St Michael and All Angels Steel Pan Band. Now, it looks pretty grim when you're looking at it from the street view, but it served the purpose at the time, and that was how it all sort of kept going and it all began. And at the time, from December through to, I'd say, March, it was much more heavily subscribed than it is currently at the moment. We were probably seeing about 20 to 30 families a week. But as things have opened up, the numbers for us have decreased, not increased. And so we were in the shipping container. And then what happened is we had lockdown number 2 at Christmas time. So then we were able then to move into the school conference room because the school was officially closed. And it was a bit warmer in winter operating from there than outside in the cold. And we did operate rain, hail or shine, regardless of the weather in all situations. And as you can see, the centre photo here, we had quite a queue at the time. People were queuing up for our services. We now have not so many people coming in a queue form, but we are still popular. Then in March 2021, we got our cabin. Now, we were very lucky, and I'd like to explain how this happened. So Sister Silvana, I'm going to give her credit for this because this was her idea. She told us that we should write to all the housing companies that are building in the local area. So I wrote to Waits Construction. Now, it just so happened that the person responsible for community outreach at Waits was passionate about giving back and about food poverty and helping people. So first of all, they donated a fridge and a freezer to us for our food bank, which at that time was in the conference room. And then they secured a cabin. We also have funding from Caritas, so we were able to do a few other bits and pieces as well for the food bank. But we now moved into the cabin, and that is where we operate now every Friday. So we have now got student volunteers. They've been helping us since September last year. And they're committed and they turn up every week, and their numbers have grown. So it's an amazing operation. And we also have 5 staff who are committed to the food bank every Friday. So it's a really big achievement from our perspective, and we're really proud of what we've achieved. Now, this brings me then to sustainability. My biggest worry with the food bank was how are we going to sustain it in terms of donations and in terms of having enough to provide for the people that come to the food bank. So first of all, we're really lucky. We have an organisation called Graceland's Yard. They're a wellbeing centre in Kensal Green, and they collect food for us on a weekly basis at their centre and then drop it off to us. Another bonus that we've had more recently is that Nations African Centre, they were delivering to the Harlesden Food Bank, but they were too late in the timing because they never normally arrive till around midday, and the Harlesden Food Bank's in the morning. So Harleston Food Bank referred them to us, and now every week, it's been happening for about 3 months now, they drop us off all M&S quality food. So that is something that we've been able to sustain. And then we still have money coming in. So we have some local ladies donate £60 a month to us, so that if we did need a few bits and pieces, we have got some cash there that we can use to buy provisions and things like that. Also, on occasion, different other organisations drop things to us. Sister Silvana herself, her communities collect for us, and more recently she sent us the Augustinian brothers from Hammersmith, who've been amazing as well. So it's about sustainability. How are we going to ensure that we have enough to provide for the clientele that we see? And that was my biggest concern, but fingers crossed at the moment, things are going quite well. And this is our next project that is also really exciting. So we're now part of Let's Grow Brent. So Let's Grow Brent came about from Kensal Green Mutual Aid. And Kensal Green Mutual Aid were looking for land to where they could plant crops and produce crops as a part of their response to the COVID crisis or the pandemic. So basically I asked Danny if they could use some of the school land, and he agreed. And then I handed this over to John Roach, our chaplain, who runs a gardening enrichment for us anyway, and it's his baby now. And as you can see, they've done really well with the planting, and we've now had our first crops of courgettes, beetroot, spinach, kale, and other bits and pieces. And another aspect to that is that the students that help him in the garden part are students doing their community service for Duke of Edinburgh. So it's served another purpose in that sense. It's involved more of the wider school community. So going forward, John is also taking part in Pat Fernandez's Road to Resilience, particularly looking at finance, how we can support those families that are struggling financially. And he's doing those with Pat every week. And I just would like to say that I hope this has been useful, but we are actually officially, after all of this time, opening the food bank on the 21st of October at 10 o'clock. And we'd love anyone who's interested to join. And perhaps I'll send the official invitation to Anna, and she can circulate it among the different people that are here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Susan. Well, lovely to have an invitation, and hopefully some of us could see each other in person there. But that's also really wonderful just to hear about the wider work you've been doing. We know it's been an incredible response through the pandemic, and there's some really, really creative ideas there. I love getting the students involved and doing that volunteering as well themselves, but growing the food and using the school space in that way is really wonderful. I'm sure there's some schools here who'd be really inspired by those ideas and love to come and meet you at your food bank opening and hear more. So that's wonderful, and I'll definitely share that. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass over to Father Dominic now, who is from Borehamwood parish. I know a lot of you will have heard about the food bank they run there, which I think has been going for about 8 years now. I think I'm right.
9.
9, oh, even longer. And it's been doing amazing work. So Father Dominic, please do tell us more about it.
Okay, listen, it's great to be here. I'm just going to give you details from April this year, just a little rundown. We've had 4,464 people came through since April. Of those, low income was 4,432. Now that's a huge number who are in work but low income. Huge difficult. The number of children is amazing. Children from 5 to 11, 1,024. Children in secondary school, 396. Younger little ones up to 4 years old, 422. Adults between 25 to 64, 2,141. Huge numbers. Single parent families and families themselves, just big numbers. over this summer, we had 6 family Wednesdays, and they were literally times when families came, and we had things like craft afternoon, we had picnics, we had a village fete, the ice cream van came, all of these things, yeah? And we were ending up with, the highest number was 30 families with about 100 people altogether. And when they came, they got food, but not only did they get food, they got takeaway. So there was a group of myself and a group of the ladies would cook, let's say chili con carne, stew, meatballs, and they'd take those away for eating. But also they got a bag with recipe and all of the ingredients to make food at home. It was just, that's one day every week, and the number of times we made that just total fun was so important. We do the same thing at in Wednesdays in every half term, but this year we did the 6 of them. We then also have a thing called the project to give the children school uniforms. So this year, or this last summer, 120 children got their full school uniform from us. We got that funded. And what was great was the parents knowing from the beginning of summer that they didn't have to worry about the school uniform. And I have to tell you, the kids parading around in their new uniforms was just amazing. And the parents were just so thrilled. It was really, really an amazing time, an amazing thing for them. We're rolling into winter. We've now got about £12,000 ready for fuel poverty. And we think we might be needing more because, as we've all mentioned, once October comes and the £20 disappears, I think an awful lot of them are going to be in serious trouble. Now, that's just a little click on what we've done just in the last little while. But we started, say, about 9 years ago, and we started, well, a man came to me when we asked for help about the need for a food bank. And he said, I've got premises, and I was very pleased. Then I said, where is it? He said, where do you want it? And that meant it was 2 ships containers in my car park. We now have 5 ships containers gently placed around the parish site. Not quite out of sight, but nicely painted and trying to look a little bit good, but absolutely totally in use all the time. But the people don't go there. They go to the hall, to the parish hall. That's set up. And we've now got a situation whereby the Citizens Advice Bureau is available on both of our sessions. We have a Monday session, Monday afternoon session, and a Thursday morning session. And CAB are there, and we send people, and especially when we know them, because we spend a lot of time getting to know the clients. And it's really lovely because a lot of the ones in this summer were very, very pleased that they could use and bring their kids to the day and have that lovely party day, a fun day, holiday. And also we got food at that time, so they didn't have to come again to the food bank itself. So what were we trying to do? I suppose for me, first of all, I didn't believe there was a need, and I've got to be honest. I had come from Camden Town, where you could smell the poverty, where you could touch it. And then I end up in this place in Borehamwood, and I didn't notice it. I didn't see it. And then somebody gave to the Elstree and Borehamwood Christian Council a little presentation and said, we believe there is a need. And I was skeptical. And now I'm blown over. I was just amazed at the pockets of poverty that are there. And some of the wards, place called Cowley Hill Ward, just literally huge numbers of people on totally low wages, lots of kids, lots of difficulties. So that was surprising. So when we started, it was very straightforward. We needed a context. So we went with the Trussell Trust. And I think for me, that has been superb, because it meant that we had a kind of, we had training situations. We had an organization that was also trying to work at the whole idea of, how do you end poverty? How do you sort it out? How do you work at it? How do you get to government and give out and all that sort of, but also they had really clear ideas of how we give the food, how much we give, what we give. And that has helped us a tremendous amount. And, you know, the idea that we've had over the last while, a couple of pop-up food banks, and it's out-of-date food that's been given to them because the shops have given it. And you think, no, you can't do that. There's something to do with the dignity of a human being. You don't say, listen, kid, you know, you're so poor, here's the stuff that nobody else is going to eat. You can't do that. Yeah? And so we're very strongly involved with the whole concept that these people have to retain their dignity, and how we deal with them, how we meet them, how we talk to them, how we signpost them on. And then during the pandemic, when it really got going, we were delivering a tremendous amount of food to families, because you didn't want them bringing the kids and the whole lot through the streets. And that has continued in many, many ways. So why do we do it? And I suppose as a Christian, if I ain't doing it, I'm not doing my job. Yeah. But so many people also believe so. Our volunteers, the number of Jewish volunteers we have, the number of Muslim volunteers we have, this interfaith has just been an amazing part of it for me. So you end up in a situation whereby we're looking at how do we get ourselves out of the job of having to have a food bank? I don't see that happening in the near future. I do see a situation whereby we somehow or other, especially with, when we had people asking us, have you got food that we can just eat, you know, just ready-made? So in other words, just open the can and eat it. That's when we discovered that there was a huge problem with fuel, because they couldn't cook the food. But then you had people saying, how do I cook that? So then we decided we would have some cookery lessons. And they were great fun, really, really good fun. But then we did also a slow cooking thing, because we got some money. We bought some slow cookers, and we had a whole session, and they all went away with their slow cookers. And it was just amazing, the number of ones who still talk about the meals they make with these things. We made other attempts with thermos flasks and things like that. I never quite caught on to that myself. But the idea then that when winter comes, apart from the fuel, what are the other problems? So we had that winter wellness, where we began to check about what have you got for bedding. And suddenly, the number of ones who ended up, we had to buy so many duvets. It was unbelievable. But then you ended up also heavy warm jackets. We spent a lot of money in making sure that people were warm during the winter. as well as having the food. So the whole idea of how does the church work it? Now, I know that the use of the church hall is hugely important. I know that having the stuff on the premises is hugely important. And I suppose I'm slightly worried because when my time comes to leave Borehamwood and some poor innocent priest gets sent here, looks around and finds 5 ship's containers discreetly placed around the place, does he do a runner and say, to hell with this, I don't know what to do, I don't want any more to do with this? I don't know. But I know that for the town here, we have just sort of great presence. Tesco's are brilliant with us. We have a box in there that when this pandemic started, we were emptying sometimes twice a day. I mean, amazing the reaction of people. We still get a load, but it wouldn't be as much now because it's kind of calmed down a little bit. But they then allow us to have 2 big collections per year. And that again is a huge thing. We have got dedicated people who are fundraising for us, and people have been very, very good. The churches around here, all we need to do is send out the list of what is needed. And you'd be amazed. I mean, I will say something on a Saturday night, and by the time I've got in from church, there's a knock on the door and a family are delivering stuff from Tesco's to me because they want to help. So there's a huge desire to help. But the next stage, and this is where I keep coming back to it, how do we move from being of absolute necessity to them to there not being a need? And I don't know how that happens. I want to believe that we would always be there if there is a need. And I know that the Citizens Advice Bureau help tremendously. But how do we stop? How do we make sure that there isn't a problem? I don't know. And I don't know. The awareness from all the schools around, the awareness from all the churches around, the awareness from all of the organizations in the town. I mean, at the moment, the mayor's charity is for our food bank. And that's quite a big thing. We've then got a diversity festival and their raffle is for the food bank. So there's a huge consciousness about the need to feed. But, and you know, the challenge that you put when you said build resilience on food poverty, it's such a difficult question. Look, we're all going to get conned once or twice, yeah? And you'll have somebody there and they'll spin you a yarn. But the vast majority are, I mean, I'll give you a case in point. A man in the queue a while ago, and just when the pandemic had started, and we're chatting to him, and he just said, last week, myself, my wife, and my son, my eldest son, were all working. Today, none of us are. Now, what a shock to a family. And then his dignity and his embarrassment at being there. And then when he came in and we had all these extras and we gave him all the extras and he was thanking us and going away. And we said, stop, you haven't had your food yet. And then the trolley came in with the food. And just to see a grown man crying because he got that help. And, you know, we're in a country that this doesn't have to happen in. And this would be me getting annoyed with certain things. But I believe that I've got to also educate the parishioners into saying things like, We have got to stand up against the £20 being taken away. We've got to stand up for the dignity of the poor. We've got to do something about it. So, look, I've spoken enough, but what I will say is that I think that this winter is going to be a tough one. And I think that we need to be a little bit more vocal about just keeping the dignity of each person, and to make sure that people aren't, through embarrassment, missing out on getting food and getting help. I know there's huge number of people who want to help. I know the volunteers are there. I know the people giving food are there. I know all of those things. We're never going to, I don't think we will run out of food, but what we might run out of is just somehow or other a way to keep people's dignity, and to keep, if, as I said, the vast majority of our people, 4,432 of them, come because of low income, we have a problem. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fr Dominic. Really powerful, and I saw a lot of nodding heads. I think you've said a lot of things people are familiar with, and we all want to be there for people in crisis, but we also can't fix this problem for good on our own. So we have to use this information and knowledge we know of what's happening to call for change. So I think it is a question of providing those creative responses, like you've said, helping people buy school uniform, pay for their energy, with helping them with cooking and things like that. That is part of how we can help them now, but in the long term, we need a bigger solution. So hopefully we can all kind of work together on that, and that's part of that campaigning we want to do. So thank you so much. That was really powerful. And now we are going to turn to some of those actions we can do now, at least in the short term. And we're going to start off with Pat Fernandez, who's here from Advice for Renters and also has a Caritas hat on, and will tell us about the Firm Foundations programme.
Thank you, Anna. Right, now the challenge of technology. Here we go. Okay, can you see that, everybody?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so as Anna said, my name's Pat Fernandez. I am the Financial Inclusion Manager for a small charity called Advice for Renters, and my particular project is Advice for Renters Money. My Caritas hat, I'm a member of the board of Caritas Westminster, and I'm also a parish representative as well. So those are some of my credentials. They do go on as long as my arm, but I've got very limited time today, so I'll be brief. So wanted to tell you about the Firm Foundations programme, and hopefully this isn't the first time that you're hearing about it. It's part of the Road to Resilience initiative that Caritas have implemented so wonderfully, so tremendously. And while I'm at it as well, I just wanted to thank Susan and Father Dominic, and mirror a lot of the sentiments that were raised in chat about what the fabulous work that you've been doing. So we've heard a lot of statistics initially from Anna, or from all of our speakers, and we know that the 30th September is going to be a very black day indeed. 4 of the major COVID concessions that the government had granted are going to come to an end. So we're expecting more evictions as we return to the pre-COVID eviction notice periods. We know that there's going to be the end of furlough in between February and April alone this year. We saw 1,247 redundancies a day. We know, well, you can't help but not notice at the moment the sort of perfect electricity, gas storm, utility storm that we're in at the moment, with the raise in the price hike and also the gas prices increasing 6-fold over the course of this year. But probably the most major is the end of the universal credit uplift of £20. But what does that actually mean? So I just wanted to illustrate an example here.
So if you imagine a household who pay £80 per month for their energy, they may have just lost that £80 in universal credit. Meanwhile, their bills have gone up by £20 due to the energy price cap and the increase in gas prices. So that family has gone from barely making ends meet, if in fact they were, to being £100 in debt, potentially overnight. So, you know, it's just going to be the flick of a, literally, no pun intended, the flick of a switch. These people are going to be catapulted into poverty or into further poverty. Just like that, the reduction of, or the removal of the uplift for universal credit is the largest decrease, potentially the only decrease in benefits that's been seen since they were invented, since the beginning of the welfare state. So we know that the links between mental health and debt, the co-causal links, are well documented. People in problem debt are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than those who aren't. And again, over 420,000 people in problem debt consider taking their life in England alone. Those aren't UK figures, those just England. Okay, so why are you important? Moving forward, the only thing that's certain about the future is that it's going to be one of economic and financial security. We don't need Sherlock Holmes to tell us that. So COVID has had a devastating effect on virtually every corner of the economy. And the charity sector is no exception. Many charities have had to close just due to various circumstances this year. And that's why you, faith-based organisations, community groups, schools, food banks, all of these community projects need to play a vital role in reaching out to those who are most vulnerable in financial crisis and helping to rebuild resilient communities over the next few years. There's not going to be an instant answer. We're in this for the long run. It's going to take many, many years to heal financially and the socioeconomic challenges that we've had this last 2 years. So firm foundations, what is it? So it's a bespoke programme designed to support you, the schools, churches, community projects, to rebuild resilient communities through sustainable initiatives and to reach those most marginalised that you were in the best position to do. So what is it? It's a 12-month programme that will consist of a 2-hour financial initiative workshop once a month, a monthly peer support session, and access to one-to-one mentorship for your community projects. So last year, as a trainer, there was a lot of money made available to educate, raise awareness, and react and respond to many of the challenges of COVID. What I saw happen from my own experience was I was doing one course and thinking, wow, this is amazing. I've got to instigate this and implement this. Then the next day I'd be on another course thinking, wow, this is amazing. I've got to implement this as well. And then by Wednesday, I'd forgotten what I was doing on Monday. So the idea that this course is held kind of in real time, though that's not strictly true, is that you get the opportunity to begin to process and begin to implement those initiatives that you can. The modules that we covered are things such as how to become a community money mentor, how to host financial capability coffee mornings, how to support a client in financial crisis, how to set up a community credit union savers club. So we've hosted a 6-month pilot program already, and some of the subjects that were covered so far were signposting, creating a directory of local services, debt awareness and guiding people to free debt advice. And I think I've already demonstrated just how much there's going to be an uptake for that need. Just to give you an idea, pre-COVID, it was estimated that 8 million people were in serious debt. And of those, only 1.1 million people ever got any financial, any free debt advice. And it would often take those people 2 years before they would make a move, in which time those debts would have been escalated tremendously. So the earlier that we can intervene to assist is the the better off people are going to be, both mentally and financially. So Acts 435, which is a hardship grant for those in financial crisis. Father Dominic, do speak to me later. The Green Doctors, who are a utilities charity that can help those that are struggling in terms of grants, negotiating with creditors, vouchers, all sorts of things. Green Doctors, Shine London, and another company, charity I came across called Thinking Thoughts, who operate in Southwest London. So we had a visit from the illegal money lending team. Now, if like me, you thought that loan sharks were only something that happened up north or in fiction or in Coronation Street, this was such an eye-opening presentation of how these people have infiltrated, penetrated, and taken advantage of those most vulnerable in terms of taking their money from them, illegal money lending. We were introduced to access to the proceeds of criminal acts funding. So this was money that was recovered from the illegal money lending team, and how you could potentially get your hands on some of that to support some of your initiatives. We looked at how to save on a low income and the various saving schemes and incentives. Now, this might sound something incredible and impossible for people that are on low income, but trust me, there are ways and means. We also looked at credit unions and community savers clubs. Primary objective was to encourage people to save, but also by becoming a member, it granted those people the potential to access fair and equitable credit rather than having to, one, seek illegal money lending loan sharks, or having to fund themselves with endless credit cards or high street lenders, that sort of thing. So I'm just wanting to show a little film about one of the initiatives, which is entirely sustainable and very, very easy to implement, and something that I'd encourage everybody to do.
Acts 435. It's about giving to people directly to help them in a really practical way. Acts 435 has helped Sophie on low income, suddenly faced with the cost of car repairs so she can still get to work. Angeline, who's fled domestic violence and is starting from scratch. Jack, unable to pay his large gas bill after a very cold winter. The way it works is that a local church or charity advocate posts the specific need on the website. So Sophie needs £110 to get her car back on the road. One donor gives £5, another £30, another £10, until together we raise the money for the item. 100% of your gift will go directly to the person in need. There are no hidden costs. Be part of this opportunity to directly help someone in need. Acts 435, giving to anyone in need.
So Acts 435 is a crowd-funded portal making contributions and your ability to help people sustainable for the fact that it's never ending. That, as Father Dominic alluded to, there are people there that are falling over themselves to help in whatever way they can. And also, I just wanted to say that we understand that not every community group will be able or have the resources or the inclination to do everything, but you all will be able to do something to support your communities at these difficult times, even if it's just the knowledge to refer somebody to somebody that does have the ability or that can provide those services. I just also wanted to say that a little bit more about me is that I started on this journey of financial inclusion with my church, Sacred Heart in Quecks Road, when we had a young family where the father just had a heart attack and died, and the family were immediately plunged into poverty. They had an autistic child, they had two other young children. The mother was a housewife that cared for the autistic child, so they immediately lost all of their income. So as a parish, we thought about what we could do. we started a credit union. We affiliated to a credit union, and that's where we started. And things just developed and evolved from there. So many of these initiatives, then I went to join Advice for Renters, as they gave me the opportunity to roll out a lot of the initiatives that we started in my church on a much wider scale. So many of the initiatives that I've demonstrated that you've seen were initiated in the first instance by me, by myself. Now, we're not expecting you to do that either. We have many people that come to our introductory days thinking, oh, I don't think I can do all of this. We're not expecting you to do all of this. But what we are looking for are champions, and money champions, if you like, who will take these initiatives back to their parishes and rally a team of people to work with you and to support you, or delegate to various other teams, perhaps existing teams, to actually initiate some of these actions that will help people. How am I doing time-wise, Anna? Have I got another 2 minutes?
1 minute.
I've got 1 minute.
You're
okay.
already a bit over, so we just,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Right,
Aisha came to us having attended one of our coffee mornings at a local children's centre.
Okay, I'm going to jump over that.
You've interrupted yourself there.
I have interrupted myself. That's very clever, isn't it? I'm just going to read to you very, very quickly, hopefully. Go away. Right, there we go. So I did want to play to you, but I'll just read it very quickly, a case study that we had from a lady called Aisha. So she came to us having attended one of our coffee mornings at a local children's centre. We helped Aisha put together a budget. So she was living in a council house. She had all sorts of arrears. She didn't even have a bed. She shared her bed with her small son, or slept on the floor quite often if he was quite fractious. We helped Aisha put together a budget so she had a clear understanding of her income and expenditure. We helped her to identify areas where she could cut money in spending by completing a spending diary. We helped her cut costs by helping her to apply for things like warm home discount and water help. We raised a grant to buy her a bed and some home furnishings also. We helped to understand which bills were the priority and the best ways for her to pay. And with regard to her existing debts, we referred her to an A4R debt manager as well. I'm just going to, no, I won't do that. So there are many, many ways that clients can be helped, and many mitigating factors that can be used. I mean, you know, there needs to be systemic change. I saw a very, very interesting graph the other day, which was comparing the cost of living to the amount of money that's provided by the welfare state nationally across the world. And I think England were second to last in terms of the benefits that are provided, being able to cover sort of English, well, UK, I should say, cost of living. How do we solve that? You know, that's a big question. That's a really big question. It'll be campaigning, may not be done in my lifetime. I'd love to think it was, but the question is, I think, how do we mitigate that? So there are lots of things, there's lots of damage limitation opportunities that we can do to make people's money stretch further, to give them dignity so that they can hold their heads up, so they know that it's not their fault, they're not alone, you know, why they're in these situations. So we will be starting a second cohort of Verb Foundations coming up in October. So if you'd like to know more, then Silvana, if you could pop your details in the chat, then do contact Silvana. I'm actually going to have to dash off because I've got to go and do a meeting in person now, and I've probably already run over because I do tend to talk a lot. But I hope that gives you a picture of how, even with limited resources, even if you're the smallest church with the most inactive parish, what you can do to actually support those pockets of poverty in your community. So I'm going to leave it there, Anna. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks so much, Pat. That was brilliant. And we really appreciate you sharing and coming when I know you had to rush on. So yes, do get in touch with Silvana if you want information. I think we'll try and have some time for questions at the end, or do put them in the chat because we are a little bit over. So I want to make sure we hear about all the different models we have to share today. So I'm going to move on now to Sabine Goodwin, who is the coordinator of the Independent Food Aid Network. So we're really lucky to have her with us today. And she's going to tell us a bit about them and what they do, but also about their new resources to promote a cash-first approach to responding to food poverty. So Sabine, over to you.
Thanks so much, Anna. Really good to see you all today. I don't know if some of you might know about the Independent Food Aid Network. We represent and advocate on behalf of independent food aid providers operating across the whole of the UK. And by now we have over 500 independent food banks in our network. And we support our members in multiple ways. We give out small grants, we give out, share information, organise meetings to share thoughts on best practice. We provide briefings and we collate data from our members, and I have produced and published multiple reports recently on independent food bank data to add to the Trussell Trust data that's been around for some time. Our vision is of a society without the need for charitable food aid, has been since we were founded in 2016. And the way we see that happening is by calling for systemic change. So, ensuring that the social security system is fit for purpose, that benefit payments, social security payments match the cost of living, that there isn't the waiting time for universal credit, that obviously the cut to universal credit does not happen. DWP data, the government's own data shows that people from universal credit households 43% of households on universal credit were food insecure before the pandemic. And we believe that a real living wage is fundamental job security. So those are the systemic changes that we call for that need to happen at a national level. But we also believe that there's much that can be done at a local level. And I'm going to speak, if I might, about our cash first referral leaflets and share my screen, which I hope will work. Can you all see that? Okay.
Yeah, great.
Great. So I've just described really pretty much what a cash first approach to food insecurity or food poverty is. And it's fundamental that that's addressed through income-based solutions. A food parcel can help in the here and now, and much needed, obviously. And there's no question that charitable food aid is needed in the immediate, but it's only a sticking plaster, and it's not going to help address the root causes of this problem. So in order to end the need for food banks and other charitable food aid provision, it's fundamental that there is a social security system that is adequate, well-functioning, well-advertised, and that also involves crisis payments, grants that are available at a local authority level. And as I said before, the real living wage, living hours, and secure work. This graphic can be seen on our website if you want to look at it a bit more later on. And the work that we're doing in terms of the cash first referral leaflets started back up in Scotland back in June of last year, following on from learning developed by the A Menu for Change project based in Scotland. And by now there are leaflets in circulation in 16 local authorities, soon to be 17 local authorities in Scotland. So actually half of the local authorities there. We're funded by the Scottish Government at the moment to extend the reach of the leaflets and the work there. But we're also working in England now, and Wales and Northern Ireland. And these leaflets are for people who are facing financial crisis and money worries, but also the people who are supporting them, to help them support people, and for those people facing this financial crisis to access all the support locally that might be available that could help reduce the need for food banks. That's the premise of the work. In terms of the layout of the leaflet, the first step identifies the problem that someone might be facing. and then that links up to options that might support them and should enable them to access support. And then the step 3 section is what we produce with stakeholders locally. We find all the organisations that might be the key organisations to provide advice and support on money advice and debt advice. And then we also include additional organisations that could support people with financial problems or mental health problems and similar in the local area. These leaflets are co-produced. We usually work with local authorities, advice providers and food aid providers and any other local charities. We work together to ensure that information is accurate and that the step 3 services provide direct help with the options that in step 2. And then we work together to ensure that the resource is disseminated as far and wide as possible through different methodologies. So through hard copies, online versions, we have a digital platform that's going to be launched next week. And we also produce translations of the leaflets. We've been working also on a training resource that's linked to the leaflet to enable frontline workers and volunteers to use it to the max, helping them gain confidence in having conversations around money worries. And we've been running launch events as well. There's about 4 coming up in October, in case you're interested, of leaflets that have just been published. This is a way of extending the reach of the leaflets and reaching as many agencies that would normally refer into food banks, so that they can hopefully use this resource to maybe refer people to advice rather than a food parcel, as it were. And please do get in touch if you'd like to find out more or would like to maybe work on a leaflet for your area, because we're really, really keen to work in as many places as possible. At the moment, we're initial conversations and leaflets have been developed in around 50 local authorities across the UK, and around 32 leaflets have already been published. Thank you very much. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Sabine, and you were very speedy, which we really appreciate because we are running a little over, so thank you. But I think that's going to be a really, really brilliant resource for parishes, schools, projects that, a lot, I know of so many of you are really at capacity already, so to have a leaflet like that where you know where to refer people for hopefully financial support rather than food support is going to be amazing. I think I'm right in saying in our diocese you already have them in Kensington and Chelsea, Enfield, Brent, and one's coming in Westminster.
Exactly.
Okay, remembered. So if you are in those areas, then you can access them online, and I think people can get hard copies as well for free, which is wonderful. But if you would like it in your area, especially if you have contacts in your local authority, let us know so we can try and work with IFAN to get these everywhere, hopefully. So that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Sabine.
Thank you, Anna.
I'm going to quickly rattle on to our next one to make sure we're getting through all of our different things. I think you were promised Liz. Unfortunately, she's not well, but Muriel has very kindly offered to step in and tell a bit about our new project setup resource. So over to you, Muriel.
Okay, thank you. I did have a presentation, but to save time, we'll go to just straight to the website, because that's something, we're looking at practical action of things that you can do. So if I share my screen, there you go, and share. Okay, and so we've got the Caritas website here. And if you go to projects and then to Road to Resilience, and just to take the opportunity to introduce you to our new diagram of the Road to Resilience whilst I'm here. And you can see this road for all projects. You are already on the Road to Resilience because you are here, but it's really taking your journey from your church activity, your school's activity, your faith in action, which is based on Catholic social teaching. We have the Why resource, which helps us to look at Catholic social teaching, how that implies. We can help you with ongoing relief, supermarket vouchers, fundraising, other things that are going on. And then we've got the networking. So that's where we are today with the food. There's also ones up for homelessness, for refugees and for older people. Then the expert training, you heard about the financial resilience one from Pat, and we have jobs, helping people into dignified work elements as well that we're piloting. And then this is what we're here to talk about now. So there's 3 elements. There's project setup, resilience, and community building. And Rose is going to talk next after me on that. And everything goes towards social justice, and as a few people have mentioned, the need for systemic change. So all that data and evidence that you can provide that helps us to provide that. So yeah, if I scroll down on this page, you can start to find more details about each element of the road to resilience. And particularly if we go into project setup and then link to the project setup resource, which I will do, then you've got the information there. Now, it is really simple. Project setup is just about how you've set up your project. Now, I recognise that many projects will have already set up their projects and be very happy about that. But this is resources just to make sure that you've got all the building blocks in place. And particularly during COVID, you may have set up the project quickly. It's been done out of love and generosity, but there might be a need to get a few things straightened out. And it is really important to do that to avoid any slip-ups, particularly in the way that you recruit volunteers, in safeguarding, in responding to COVID-19 as you open up, how you manage risk, and also in the governance of your setup. And the financial management. So what there is there is, it's basically just a checklist. So the development workers who cover your area will help you to go through each element of your project. It's something you can do on your own and with the development worker, and just see how you're doing and who you've got appointed for each area. And how things are doing. So it's very basic, but it's a helping hand for projects as they go through. The other aspect, which I will just briefly take you to, if I go back to the website, if I go back, is the project resilience. So once you've set up the project, it's all everything is in place, the basic building blocks. And this is what Fr Dominic was really talking about, is how can you go that one step further? And I know everybody's, people are looking at these already, and there's an opportunity to celebrate what you're doing well. But looking at that, how can you change the focus from direct relief to resilience? How do you involve and empower those that you serve? So how can you get their voice and ask them what they want and get them be part of the solution for the future, and looking at how you can make systemic change. So there is, you can have a look at this today on the website. There are 6 elements, and it's kind of a map. Different projects will be different places. The aim is to get to the right, but it might not be appropriate or necessary, or you may already be here. But there's certainly a lot in there. We do have background information on each of these. We have another audit or a kit that you can use to walk through. And if anybody's interested to do that, we'd be very interested to walk alongside you and to complete the resilience audit. So I think I'll pass you on to Rosa. Is that all right, Anna? Who's going to talk about the community workbook and building community from your project.
Great, thank you. So I am also going to share my screen. So this resource kind of forms part of the Road to Resilience, which you just heard Mariel speaking about there. So hopefully this is going to work. The resource, this workbook, was developed to kind of bring together a lot of the elements and considerations that a project that is already running might be thinking about, or also to assist projects in the setup as well. So it can be used by anybody, an individual or volunteers or a group, to kind of look at the questions that they might be facing in terms of linking in with the community, but also things like demonstrating impact, funding, all of these different aspects. So that is what it looks like. You can find it online, and hopefully you can either print it out yourself or maybe even get a solid copy. So just going on to the next bit. It's firmly couched in Catholic social teaching. So Bishop Paul is supporting it as a resource. And there are also areas for you to think about the elements of Catholic social teaching and how your project fits in with that. And that is, again, a really important part of the philosophy of the Road to Resilience in general. So I'm just going to be very brief with this, and these just give you an idea of what the pages look like, just to kind of whet your appetite and hopefully get you thinking about filling it out. So first of all, it's to think about your vision, what your hopes and dreams are for your project, where you are at the moment and where you would like to be as well. And then really what's really important to this is the idea of it being person-centered. So we've heard about, and I'm sure you can all think of people that attend your project or the people that you'd like to help through your project. So it's the idea of putting them at the core of everything that you do, and the outcomes that really are the result of that and how that changes the face of a project. Then you have the opportunity to look at your community, how better to link in with them, and also what the benefits are of doing that, like you heard about the shipping containers or being able to access your local supermarket shops and just the ways that you can tie in with that. And then finally, the impact, so ways of demonstrating your impact and also recognizing the power of your voice. So the document has really been designed to kind of cover all the different elements that you'll be thinking about as a project and hopefully answer a few of the questions that you have. But I can't stress enough how much like the Caritas team and your development workers are here to help answer those questions as well. So it might be that things come up as you're going through the document, and actually we can either support you in that or try and find the answers. And that is also why these networks are so important and hopefully helpful, because we can all answer the questions together. So that was that, and hopefully I can stop this share somehow. There we go. Great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rosa and Muriel. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind at the end there to try and fit everything in. We've all been working hard to try and make as many resources as possible to support you, and we realise we don't expect everyone to need every element of all the things we just talked about, but hopefully there was something in that mix that will be useful to you. I'm sure none of you got into food relief because you loved paperwork, but unfortunately that becomes quite a big part of it. So hopefully some of those tools help you to do that serious health and safety on that side of things, but also to reflect on your mission and remember why you're there after 18 months where you probably feel very, very burnt out and think where you want to go next. I know we've covered some quite negative and worrying topics going forward, but I hope you can also feel positive about what we're all doing together and the opportunities there are to help people. So I hope it doesn't leave you with too much worry, but you do feel there's some practical options to go forward. Thank you so much to our wonderful speakers. I really appreciate all your time and getting so much information out to us in a really short amount of time. And thank you all for coming. Father Dominic is just going to close the meeting for us with a blessing.
Thank you. Do you know what's beautiful about a meeting like this is that the only reason we're here is love. And it's not huggy, huggy, kissy, kissy love. It is that really hard-nosed Jesus love that says, if you're at the bottom, I want to help you. If you're on the outside, I want to help you. If you've got no dignity, I want to help you. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing all these projects. We're doing it because of our love of Jesus Christ, our love of these people who are the image of God in our lives. So we ask God to bless us, to bless the work we do, to be with us when we get frustrated, to be with us when we get judgmental, and to try and turn us around. And may Almighty God bless all of us in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Have a lovely rest of your day.